Hey bag makers! Are you excited for the next project? This is the Heartbag Sweety, and I've designed the pattern last year for Valentine's Day, and I thought this year I like to share it with you, and I hope you like it as much as I do and enjoy this sew. So let me show you the details of this bag. The front and the back panel is just a nice display for any kind of statement fabric. Of course, in a solid vinyl it'll look really classy and elegant. It's more romantic like this, so feel free, just choose different styles and see how versatile this pattern is. This is the interior. We have a small slip pocket and a small zipper pocket. And now let's have a look at the gusset piece and the handle. I think the handle is like a really nice detail. The D-ring attachment is a little bit different. It's not attached in the side of the gusset. It's attached in the handle. And don't get the pattern pieces mixed up. Don't switch up the front and the back because the handle will be attached to the back. I've used 2 centimeter white hardware in rose gold. I love rose gold, and I used a lot of rivets for this, so we attach it with stitches and rivets. If you don't have any rivets, don't worry, you could also do stitches, but I'll talk you through with all the details in every step. So did you already choose your fabrics? Let's go. Let's do this together and make a beautiful Sweety Heartbag. The first thing that we have to do is prepare our pattern pieces for printing. So I will show you how to print out your pattern pieces. So you open up your file and then you go to print. And then it's important that you just choose the sheets that you would like to print, if it's everything or just a few sheets, and make sure you have chosen the right scale. So if it's D-4 or US letter. But the most important part is scaling it to the right size. It has to be at 100% or actual size. And then you can just hit print and check the square box on your pattern pieces if your measurements are correct. So for this project, I've used a quilting cotton. It's a very lightweight cotton for my lining. And for the main fabric, I've used a water-resistant canvas. It's my favorite fabric type right now. For the strap and the handle, I've used some faux leather. It's not too thick, it's just the right weight. And now we will start with the other things that we need. We need some bias tape, we need some zipper tape, and we need a lot of hardware, of course. I've used some double cap rivets, but they're optional. I've used some swivel clasps too, to be exact, 2 D-rings. We need a slider for our strap. And of course, we need pulls for our interior zipper and our main zipper. These are the interfacings that I've used. I've used Decophyl Light for the main fabric types. I've used G700 for the lining pieces, just to make it like, I really like the feel of it. And this is the Pellon Thermolam for the main fabrics. Just check the material lists in the pattern in the ebook. And for the strap, I've used this type of upholstery interfacing. I'm not sure what the name is. I think it's Vigofil, but it's not a must. You can find something else to put inside the strap, like maybe a Decophyl, the hard type, or yeah, something similar. So I suggest you to print out these 2 pages from the pattern pieces, so you have a cutting list for all the square pieces. So if you don't want to print out all the pieces from the PDF file, you will have a cutting list and a material list. It's easier to work with this. So this is the gusset part. We have the zipper strips, we have the bottom from the gusset, we have some lining for the interior pockets, and of course our main body in main fabric, and of course our handle, the bottom and the top. The top is already ironed to the middle. So when you've cut out all your fabric pieces, you interface them. I put the thermolam on top of the decofill. You can see this here. I already fused the decofill light on the fabric piece, and on top of this, I will just iron the thermolam. Okay, let's start. To create our front and our back, we will need the front and back main fabric and the lining pieces. And we will start with the interior zipper part, pocket part. So this time I've chosen a different technique. I would really appreciate some feedback if you prefer your zipper being attached to like this. So it looks nicer, but it's just an extra piece of fabric and an extra step, and I'm a lazy person sometimes, so just give me some feedback. So you take the facing panel piece and you draw a rectangle on top. It's the rectangle, you can take the measurements from the pattern piece, but it's basically 1 centimeter wide, high, which is 3/8 inch, and it's 2 centimeters from each side, so it's just centered in the middle. See, it looks like this. Just transfer the measurements from the pattern piece. Yes. Mark the middle of your main body and mark the middle of your facing piece and just place it centered 4.5 centimeters from the top, centered, right sides together. So the wrong side of the facing panel is looking up. Make sure it's straight and centered, and measure 4.5 centimeters from the top line to the top center from the heart shape. And then you sew it on top of your main fabric like this, see? And now we will have to cut the middle. It can be quite scary if you do this for the first time, but it's not that hard. So if you want to, you can draw a line and take some scissors to do this, or you just take the rotary cutter and cut the middle line, but not all the way, just the middle, and then draw some V shapes on there, some 2 tiny V's, and take some small scissors and cut as close into the edge as you can. Do this slow and careful because you don't want to cut into your seam, because then you would have to do this again, and we don't want this. So cut as close to the edge as possible, but don't cut into your stitches. So when you've done this, you just push your panel through the hole, fold the edges to make it a bit easier, but you really should press it with an iron, because then everything will stay in place. Because like this is a bit like it will fold back up, and you don't want this. You just take an iron, you finger press it first, and then just iron it. So everything's just looking nice like that. Okay, and now let's take care of our zipper. So you will need to cut 20 centimeters from your zipper tape, which is 8 inch. So we have this long strip of zipper. This is for the whole project, but for the interior zipper we only need 20 centimeters. So just I measure it on my mat, cut 20 centimeters, 8 inch. And now we will place it on one of the lining pieces from the interior zipper pockets. Don't put it like this. No, no, no. The other way around. So the wrong side of the zipper tape is on the right side of the lining fabric. And you use a seam allowance. I used 7 millimeters, which is a 1/4 inch. And then you repeat this to the other side. Make sure that the sides of the lining pieces, they have to line up. You could also mark the middles to make it easier, but if you just line them up, it's okay too. And sew this together, and then press the lining away from the press the lining away from the zipper. Don't forget to insert your zipper pull. And I don't know which way you would like to close your zipper. This is your bag, so you decide which way you want your interior pocket to close. So you can lay it under your window like I did, or the other way around. It really doesn't matter. But you should take care of how you place it under there, because this will be the way that the direction that the zipper will close. So you would take your window and put it on top of the right side of the zipper. See, I like to close it like that, but you can do this differently. And then you have to sew another rectangle on top. Make sure that your lining pieces are centered, okay? This is what it looks like when it's done. And then you fold the lining piece down. It's not sewn together. I was just shocked because I didn't show this. The other lining piece was looking up, but you just need to fold it down and trim off the extra fabric on the bottom and the extra zipper tape, and then you sew together the sides and the bottom of your interior pocket. And this is the finished look. I mean, it's a much nicer and cleaner look. And now you have to make the hard choice, which part will be the front or the back, because we now need the back piece. I wasn't sure, so I chose this one. So place the interior part with the zipper onto your back, the back side of your main fabric. Wrong sides together. Wrong sides together. Baste everything together with, choose a wide stitch and stay within the seam allowance. Open up the zipper to make this a bit easier. So the back is done. Looks nice, right? And again, give me some feedback if you prefer this zipper or if it's not important to you. Now we will make the interior for the front. So you take the other lining piece and the slip pocket lining piece, and you will fold this together. See, the two short edges, you need to fold them together and sew the sides and the bottom, but you need to leave an opening at the bottom to turn your slip pocket inside out. So I think I left about 10 centimeters. So you sew this together and then you trim off the corners because it's a bit easier to turn this inside out. And then you would have to fold the opening over like the same way that your seam allowance is folded, like that, or sewn together. Take a tool, take something to form out the edges and then press it. I usually use my chopsticks. See, you fold in the opening that it's just a straight line. And I really suggest not to just finger press it. Use an iron so everything looks nice and clean. And then see, then you would top stitch the top. I already did this, and insert my label. And again, you would take your main body piece, mark the middle, and also mark the middle of your slip pocket. And I've placed this centered 4 centimeters from the top, which is 1.558. But it's up to you. It's really up to you. Just make sure that it doesn't get into your seam allowance. So now it's time to attach it the same way to the front main body piece. Wrong sides together. Use a wide stitch and stay within the seam allowance and baste everything together. And then the front and the back is done. So let's move on to the next part, which is the main gusset. Now it's time to make our gusset. For the main zipper, we need the main zipper front and back. We need our zipper tape and the lining pieces as well. So before I sew the zipper tape into my gusset, I like to attach the two zipper pulls so it opens up from both sides. The thing is that the back opens up pretty wide, so I decided not to put any wings in the interior. Instead, I just make two zippers, so you can decide yourself like how wide you would like to open it when you get something in and out the back. So you place the zipper with the right side down onto the back, the gusset zipper back, and you sew this with 1 centimeter seam allowance, which is 3/8 inch. And then you finger press the lining and the main fabric away from the zipper, and then just top stitch. So now you have to repeat this with the other side as well. You place your zipper on your main fabric, right sides together, and then the lining on top. So the zipper is sandwiched in between, and the lining and the main fabrics are right sides together. And then you top stitch when you sew with 1 centimeter. So this is the main zipper part is done. You trim off any extra zipper tape, and then we will take care of our handle, because before we close the gusset ring, we attach the handle to the back, not the front, the back. The back is the wider section. I've used 2 centimeter wide D-rings. I know many of you guys use 2.5 centimeters, which is 1 inch. I think it's a bit too wide for the look, but of course you can do it, but you would have to adjust the size of your gusset bottom and gusset zipper back. So what we will do is I put some Vigofil into my strap to make it a bit more sturdy. You could also use Vigofil Heart or maybe any other inlay you would like, or you can skip the inlay, but the handle might be a bit wobbly then. So how I do it is a bit more complicated because I don't like to have too many seams on my handle, but you could do this another way, which is easier. So you take the bottom of your handle and you insert the Vigofil and fold it to the middle. The Vigofil strip is the same size as the D-ring. So if you use a 2.5 D-ring, 1 inch D-ring, you would cut it like 2.5 centimeters. This is a 2 centimeter wide strip. Sometimes it's helpful if you make it like a teeny tiny bit smaller than the D-ring, because I mean you have like all this bulk from the vinyl and stuff, so it might be a bit too wide then. Another option would be to top stitch this down before you put the top on the bottom. Just make the seam like really close to the middle, but I prefer not to because I don't like the seams on the bottom of my strap, but it's easier to do it like that. So when you put everything, like folded everything down, you take your fabric strip and you really need to iron it to the middle before you attach it. And then you place this on top of your bottom. And the trick is just eyeballing it. I don't measure it. It's just like a small bit of the vinyl should be visible from looking at it from the top. And then you just work your way around and attach everything with clips. And make sure that you have one side when your clips are not as close to the middle, so you can sew right next to the one side. Does that make sense? Sometimes I really struggle with English, especially today. I'm so tired. Sorry. So I'd rather show you how I do it on the machine right in the next step. Yes, just this is what it looks like from close up. sorry for the blurry vision, there you can see it. So you will top stitch on the main fabric. So in this way you just have the one stitch and not too many stitches there. Okay, let's go to the sewing machine. So you place this right underneath the needle. You start at the one short end of the strap, and then you see like the other side with the clips attached is not too close to the middle, so I can just leave the clips in there and then just top stitch all the way around, and everything will stay where it should stay, hopefully. But of course you could also glue this down or do an easier technique than this one. I just gotten so used to doing it like that, so I just prefer it like that. So when you get to the end, you just turn around and sew all the way back to the beginning. Okay, so this is the finished strap. I think it looks very pretty. And yeah, just these two stitches, seams at the bottom. See? But of course, like, do it whatever way you like. I think I've said this like so many times now. You get the point, right? So you trim off any extra hanging out on the sides. And yes, it's time to attach our handle onto our main zipper. So we make some markings for that. Take chalk or take some water dissolvable pen. The first marking is 12 centimeters, then 1 centimeter, and then 3 centimeters from the short end. In inch, the first marking is 4¾ inch, then 3/8 inch, and the next one is 1¼ inch. So you could write this on your pattern pieces, or you can just go back to the instruction. And you make this on both short ends from the handle. I've decided then to take the pen because the chalk wasn't really visible on the white fabric. So fold the lining piece up because I don't want this to be through my lining piece. I don't want to see the handle seams, the attaching seams from the inside. So fold this up and place the strap onto the end really close to the zipper. So what I take for orientation is the top stitch seam that we did. I just line it up with the seam, and I have about 1½ centimeters left on the side. It's important that you have more than 1 centimeter on the side because we need to attach this piece onto our bag. And if we don't have enough space for, like the seam allowance, then we have a problem. So when you sew this on top, make sure you have your lining piece folded up so that you're not going to sew through this. And you can see the strap is really close to the seam, to the top stitch seam. I just line it up there so you have orientation. So what you will do is you will sew a rectangle until the first marking and then go back. I don't like to do sew through the same stitch. I just make one really close to the other one. I just like how this looks, but you could also do this on the same seam that you've just made the top stitching on. It's just personal preference, okay? So when you get to the first marking, Just turn it around so that you can sew a rectangle, a few stitches, and you can make some more extra stitches going back and forth on this part because the D-ring has to hold a lot of strength, like has to be really sturdy that the D-ring stays in place. So now we have the top stitching into the first marking, you see, and then you will put your D-ring onto the handle, and then you will sew a second rectangle from the second to the third marking, and also make sure it's straight. You line it up on the seam from the top stitched zipper. I put some vinyl right under my sewing foot. Of course, there are professional tools for this, but somehow I just prefer my piece of vinyl. I think this piece is 3 or 4 years old, and it's just my favorite thing. I can fold it whatever height I want. So make some extra stitches right there because this is like the hardest part for this seam has to hold the D-ring when you have heavy stuff in your bag. This is also why I attach rivets, just to give it more strength, and I like the look. If you don't have any rivets, or if you don't like the look of rivets, how about sewing like an X box on this section, just to make sure the D-ring will stay in place. You know how heavy handbags sometimes can be. So this is like the extra stitching I am doing when I return from sewing my rectangle. So another important thing, before you do this on the other side, you have to put your second D-ring into the handle, on the handle. You see, I've made 2 rectangles, and before I do the other side, put the D-ring onto the handle. Don't forget this, otherwise you have to open up all your seams on one side, and we don't want this. So basically you make this the same way. You line it up at the short end. Make sure the lining is folded up. You don't want to sew through the lining piece. Make some extra stitches maybe to attach it. Line it up with the top stitch zipper, like with the seam. And then it's time to sew the first rectangle. You sew until the first marking and then back again to the beginning. A few extra stitches, Sarah. Why don't you do this? I don't know why. I do it on the other rectangle, that's right. But you can do this on both sides of the D-ring. Then you put your D-ring down. That is like in the 1 centimeter marking, the 3/8 inch marking. And then again, this is the part where you definitely should make a few extra stitches. And then you sew the second rectangle again, like from marking 2 to marking 3. Go back, lock your stitches, and then you've attached it. And if you don't want to put the rivets in, again, you can make some X's, so an X box. Okay, so this looks great already. I just really like this piece of handle and main zipper. I just think it's so pretty. And before I attach the rivets, I do erase the markings that I made with the pen and the chalk that I've tried to see, but now it's just way easier to do it than when the rivets are in there. So remove your markings and then make some new markings. Yes, we make the markings on there for the rivets. Check if it's everything like really tight, nice. So I decided to put 4 rivets on each side. So honestly, I do just eyeball it most of the times where I put them, but I get a lot of questions like how many centimeters, like what do you do, like how do you do it. They want to know the exact centimeters, so I put them 2 centimeters apart or 1.5 centimeters apart. It also depends on the size of the rivets. Like if it's small tiny rivets, 1.5 could be like enough for a nice look, but I used 2 centimeters in between it. So the top ones are just in a small rectangle from marking 2 to marking 3, and yeah, the other ones on the other side of the D-ring. So this is just how I do it, but feel free, just get creative, do your own thing. Like if you want to attach it any different way, just go for it, try it, and don't forget to show me, because I am just always happy when I see what you make, what fabrics you use, what style you make, or maybe like even if you make like variations. It's just so exciting to see. Okay, then I just attach the rivets. I have a rivet press because I use so many rivets and it's just very handy. And I tried the hammering thing and it went wrong so many times. So at one point I just got myself this press and I really like this. So this is nice, right? Okay, and then you just repeat it on the other side and do a little happy dance. I'm sorry. I'm so goofy sometimes. I just like to dance and sing while I'm sewing. That's the truth. Okay, now you can fold this back down. If you want to, you can put some duct tape to protect your interior fabric, but mostly that is not needed though because there are no sharp edges. Okay, let's work on the bottom. This is done really easy and really quick. You just put the gusset bottom piece right side down on the right side of your finished zipper piece, and then place the lining top right side down on the other lining side. So the zipper is sandwiched in between. So you sew this with 1 centimeter seam allowance and like that. I made some extra stitches where the strap is for more security. Okay, then you just fold it like that and top stitch on the bottom. See? Nice. And now you close the ring. So again, you put the right side of the bottom from the main fabric on the right side of your finished gusset, and then the lining as well. It might be in the way a little bit because the bottom piece is really short compared to the zipper part, but you can do this. Just make sure that it's not like twisted up. And then you sew this with 1 centimeter as well and top stitch it. And then you've made the ring. A gusset is ready. And this is, again, like you've watched my videos before, you know this. I like to attach my bias tape to the gusset ring before I put everything together. So I just have to close the binding. You can do this the traditional way and do this all the way at the end to hide your seams. This is just how I do it. I just baste it within the seam allowance, like on both sides. This is the first side. I fold this like a triangle and then let it overlay a little bit and then just trim off any extra. And then I repeat this to the other side. I do this as well. I attach it. It's within seam allowance. And then I just feel it's so much easier to do this. But yeah. The last step on our gusset piece is we have to mark the middles on both sides. So the bottom on each side and the top. Make some small snips or use some chalk or markers, whatever you prefer. It's important. Mark the middles now on both sides. And then we're done. So now for the last step, we will assemble everything. Okay, so turn your ring inside out. And let's move on to the next step. Now that we have all our pieces prepared, we have the back and the front and our gusset, it's time to assemble these 3 pieces to finish our bag. So we will take the back piece, it's the one with the interior zipper, and mark the bottom center. And I don't think it's necessary to mark the top because it's a V shape, so you know where the top is, but of course you can do this if you want to. I don't. Make sure that the zipper pull is not in your way, and we will align the bottom markings from our gusset and our back piece, but we have to make sure that we put the right side down from the gusset. So the side with the handle attached needs to be attached to the back. Otherwise, we would have the interior piece with the interior zipper on the front, and it should be in the back. So make some snips within the seam allowance. Don't go too far with those snips, and use some clips to attach it. But we are not going to attach it all the way, just the first half. And the reason for that is the top curve, which is the tricky part. It's really hard to sew. It's probably the hardest part in this pattern. But if we go slow and step by step, it should be okay. And after a while, when you practice this maybe 1 or 2 times, it shouldn't be a problem anymore. And I will show you how I sew this. So let's go to the sewing machine and let me show you how I do it. So there you stop with the clips. Just attach it like that. The ankle is kind of the secret of how we're gonna do this. Okay, so just start before the first clip you've entered, or afterwards. If the curve is too hard to start, you can start anywhere else. Just don't start at the top curve. So start at the bottom and sew very close to the edge, because this is just for basting. I use a very wide stitch, the widest stitch that I have on my machine. I think it's 5 millimeters. Five, yeah. And just work your way up to the middle. And I've made this quicker, of course. I'm not sewing that fast in real time. It's a lot slower. But now we will slow down and I will show you how I make this. So you pull this down until you get to the curve and go like 1 or 2 stitches further. And then you pull this up, but not all the way, just to the middle. And then you make another 1 or 2 stitches, maybe 2 stitches like this. And then you can align the top edge from the second curve. And you see the back of the piece will lift up, and that's okay. But there might be some creases forming. So just do it slowly and keep pushing down any creases you might have. So since I didn't make more snips before, I have to do this now at the machine. But you really need to baste this first, because just hitting the right seam allowance right there in the first round is almost impossible. Or you break your fingers or your needles or whatever. So I really suggest you, first round is just basting everything together. So, and that was okay. That was not so hard. It was a bit hard, but it will get a little bit harder when you sew with the correct seam allowance. So Now you will reach the point where you started, and then the basting is finished. So I just keep my needle inside the project and just sew like 2 stitches to the side. So just that I have the right seam allowance, which is 7 millimeters, which is 1/4 inch. And then work your way up again, and now you will realize that it's a bit harder now because you might have folds and creases, but you just stop before it and keep pushing it down like that, so that the like the wavy shape kind of goes behind your needle. Does that make sense? So just keep going until you have like a bump. Not a bump, it's more like I don't know the English word, but I'm sure you can see this right there. Keep pushing it down until you get to the next point, then you need to push it down again. And just like that, you work your way to the top curve. We are almost at the middle again, so slow down a little bit and keep pushing down the like the middle, the center. Make some more snips if necessary, but keep them like really, really close. Don't hurt the seam too much. And then work your way to the center. This will go up, and that's okay. Just focus on the part that is right in front of you, and don't worry about like the back behind the needle, in front of the needle. Everything matters just like 2 or 3 stitches away, and then you can rearrange, push it down again, and like that it's just easier if you don't focus too much on the other parts. So when you've reached the center, don't go right up. We go straight for maybe 2 stitches like that, and then we go back up, because this is not a pointy shape, it's a curvy heart shape. It's not pointy. Is that the right word? I'm not sure how to say this properly in English. But yes, the bottom of the heart shape and the top curve is like a smooth, soft curve and not pointed. I had to check the word. It's not pointed. It's curvy. It's smooth, curvy V shape. U, maybe like more like a U, not like a V. So round 2 is sewn with the correct seam allowance of 7 millimeters, 3/8 inch, and you have to make sure that you set your stitching to a smaller size, not the white basting stitch. So this is what it looks like when it's all done, when it's all connected to each other. Please check the top curve and make sure that everything looks nice and clean, and check the whole seam. Just go around with your finger and make sure you got everything right. And since we have attached, or I have attached, the binding, the bias tape to the gusset already before I sewn this together, I can just close my binding right now. If you haven't done it like that, you would have to do this like the classic traditional way, because you'd have to hide your seams in the binding. I make this a little bit quicker because this might be boring to watch. Everything's folded up now, so it's time to sew. But before, please check the top curve and make sure that everything's covered and nothing's sticking out of the seam. And sew one round to make everything safe, secure, nicely finished. So this looks good. The top curve, the seam is covered. And now we have to attach the front piece the same way that we did with the back piece. So again, we have to align our center markings. We make some snips in the gusset because we have so many curves to sew. And we also mark the bottom center from the front piece and use our clips to put it onto our front, but just half of it, not the whole thing, exactly the same way as we've connected the back to the gusset. So find the center marking. I didn't mark the center on the front piece, so please mark the center and then align the two markings. Use your clips to make it a bit easier and work your way up to the middle. So I'm gonna let you watch this because you know how that works, right? Time to sew again. So you do this exactly the same way that you've connected the front, and this is what it looks like when it's done. So you made it. You've closed the binding on the other piece as well, and this is probably my favorite thing in bag making is turning your bag inside out, and then you get to see what you've done for the very first time, and it's just the best feeling ever. Do you agree? What's your favorite part about bag making or your favorite moment? Usually I walk around in my kitchen turning a bag inside out and just getting excited. So form out the curves and everything, push the seams in the right place and check all the seams if you got everything right. And yes, enjoy. Look at it, admire it, celebrate it. And yeah, you're done. Oh no, you're not done. I'm sorry, I made a wrong promise. You have to do a strap. Maybe you've did this at the beginning. I always forget and then I think I'm done and then I realize, no, you're not done. You have to make the strap. But this is very pretty, don't you think? Okay, let's make a strap. Okay, let's make a strap. So I will show you how I do the straps when I use faux leather. Of course, you could also use some webbing, whatever you like. Just go ahead and go for it. So this is just how I do it. I mark the middle of my strap and fold the raw edges towards the strap. It's basically the same thing as the handle, just this is a little bit wider. And after that we will fold the other edge as well to the middle and then fold and fold in the middle again. Can I say it like that? I know you get the point. So I'm sure you did this plenty of times. It's just some people were asking like how do I make the straps, so I thought I would just include this in my tutorial. So now it's time to fold the other edge. I'm sorry, I dropped something. And then fold again, and I use clips. If you feel like this is not for you, you could also use double-sided tape to secure everything nicely. but I figured clips is working for me fine, so this is what I do. For the strap, I use 2 cm wide hardware, which is, let me guess, 1/4? No, what was 2 cm? 3/4, I think, an inch. And this is what it looks like when it's all folded together. And then you just top stitch around it the same way you did with the handle. And when you're done, it looks like that. So then I make a few markings where I'm gonna punch my holes, because when I do for leather straps, I like to use rivets to secure everything, but you could also sew an X or just a box, a square, instead of using rivets. That's up to you. But if you do rivets, I make 4 markings on each short end of the strap. One pretty close to the edge, then 4 cm, and one 3 cm gap in between. So the bigger gap is for the slider, and the smaller gap is just for the other end where you just insert the swivel clasps. So I just punch 4 holes because I'm gonna add 2 rivets on each end of the strap. And then I will show you how I slide in the hardware, because I remember when I first started bag making, I always thought like this is so complicated, like which end has to go where. It's just, and now we just do it in our sleep, right? But it's because you've done this like 100 times. But in the beginning, when you first start with bag making, this can be confusing. So I will show you how I do it. So first I will take the slider, just insert it, and then you insert 1 swivel clasp, and then you go back through the middle of the slider again. I show you how. See, it goes through the slider, and the end goes through the middle of the slider, like underneath the strap, and there you have the holes, and you can insert the rivets like that. If you don't have rivets, just sew the 2 middle pieces together, like where I insert the rivets. You could also sew this together if you don't like rivets or don't have any right now. I use double cap rivets in rose gold. I just love rose gold. I know this is like a 50-50 chance, because you either really like it or you just don't. But I really like rose gold. Okay, let's close the rivets, and I use a press for the rivets. And I showed you my press when we did the handle, right? So you know how that works. At some point, I decided to get one because I use a lot of rivets. I don't know about you. Do you use a lot of rivets, or don't you like them? Or okay, here we go. Rivets are attached, and now it's time for the other end of the strap. And this is just easy. You just put in the swivel clasp and insert the rivets. Press them together. And again, if you don't have any, just sew these 2 ends together. You can do this with just going back and forth, or you can sew a square, an X box, or yeah, just whatever you like. So rivet number 2, and then that's it. Your strap is done, and you could attach it to your bag and try it on. And now we are really done, right? Nothing else to come. Did I forget something? I hope not. But everything's done now. Yes, press it. Don't forget to press it, because like that it would not last very long. And yes, you did it. So just let's look at what we've done what we've achieved, and I know the curvy part was tricky, but you made it. Your bag is done. Don't you love this? This is so cute. It's like a nice heart, soft, curvy project. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you learned a little bit maybe. I hope you make plenty of beautiful heart bags and just tag me on Insta. Use the hashtag Heartbag Sweety. I really love seeing your pics. So, happy sewing everyone. See you next time, okay?